It is mind-blowing.
And heartbreaking.
How many original scripts are written every year but are never made?
So we seek out these scripts and bring them to life with full audio production and professional actors.
Check us out at Undiscovered Scripts.
Movies made of paper.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Free!
Matt, we are tackling a song that, fun fact, this is something I don't think I've ever told you this. I was at Starbucks a year ago, randomly listening to Polka Party.
Great.
And this song was playing in my car. And I thought, God, this is such a great song. I feel like no one knows it because people only know the popular Weird Al songs.
Yes.
I wish that there was a Weird Al podcast that covered... this was the song that made me decide that I wanted to start this podcast. was Dog Eat Dog off of Polka Party. And the problem with this is that I like this song so much, but I also feel like I have very little to say about this song.
Well, yeah, you know what's interesting? It is like Dare to Be Stupid, the song Dare to Be Stupid. This is a style parody that is so flawless that it is kind of stunning. It doesn't have it doesn't hold the gravitas and the weight of Dare to Be Stupid for me. I don't totally know why, but it is, maybe it's because there's not the video and all this other sort of just like nostalgia for me attached to it, like there is the song Dare to Be Stupid, but this is yet another just absolutely astonishing style parody.
This is fantastic. I'm not going to ask this every week, I promise.
Yes.
But last week, you had mentioned that when you saw Al in concert, he performed one song off of Polka Party and said it was his favorite song, even though it was on his worst album. Was this the song?
Of course it was.
Yeah, it had to. I was like, it had to have been.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I was so glad to hear it live. It's incredible. No, this is one of those, like we said about Dare to Be Stupid, how it's such a good style parody, and it is funny, but it's not a comedy song. And it just feels like this could easily be a Talking Heads song.
Yeah.
Like, if this was on a Talking Heads record, nobody would be like, oh, they did a goofy song. Like, no, this is just what they do.
1,000%. And so here was the little wiki breakdown that they had of this song. Dog Eat Dog is a style parody of the Talking Heads. Described as a tongue-in-cheek look at office life, the song was inspired by Al's past experiences working in the mailroom and traffic department at Westwood One Studios. He noted that at first he thought the job was kind of cool because he had a phone and a desk and a little cubicle to call his own, but after a while he felt like his soul had been sucked out of him. The song features a line that directly parodies Talking Heads' Once in a Lifetime, where he says, "Sometimes I tell myself this is not my beautiful stapler. Sometimes I tell myself this is not my beautiful chair." This mirrors a similar line in the song. And you may tell yourself this is not my beautiful house. You may tell yourself this is not my beautiful wife. But again, what you were saying is true. Like the same way that Dare to Be Stupid hits on so much of what the Devo ethos is, that we are getting dumber and de-evolving at a regular basis. Talking Heads has so many songs that are about like this emotion that doesn't get talked about enough of like numbness towards life. Yeah. Like life just literally passing you by. That is literally what Once in a Lifetime is about. Is like you blinking your eye and your life, you've aged 10 years and you're like in this entirely different experience, but you still feel like your childhood was like right behind you. Like it hits all those notes. And I don't know if I'm going to assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to assume that given that you dropped out of college, joined a band, and pretty much have steadily been performing in a band, that you haven't had to really deal with like the soul crushingness of 7 years at a desk job like I have.
Yeah, I've never had an office job. I've never had an office job. I've worked in and out of retail. I talked about running a record store, and I had a couple like, oddball jobs in my teenage years. I used to work at Radio Shack.
Nice. Yeah. An office job is absolutely Like when I listen to Once in a Lifetime, I do think of the 7 years that I spent in that office job, because exactly as Al said, there's this point where it feels cool. You have this like private little cubicle that's like all your own, and you decorate it with like whatever you want, and like, you know, there's free food in the kitchen, and like, you know, we were kind of a techie place, so it was like, oh, we have this arcade cabinet that has like 1 million games, and like, you know, you're like hanging. It doesn't feel like you're at work. It feels like you're hanging out. And then next thing you know, it's been 7 years, and you're like, what the fuck did I do with the last 7 years of my life?
Yeah, like, no, it's this idea of like celebrating monotony.
Yes.
as if it was, you know, it's pitched to you as the American dream. And like, aren't you lucky that you have this amazing job where you can provide for yourself, but it is the most soul-crushing monotony. I don't know what I do here. Yeah, exactly. Where the time has gone, what this is. And that's, Al does it as well. That's a very Talking Heads thing again, like this celebration of Talking Heads have entire songs written about lamps and objects, and you know, Al channels that perfectly. It's also something that Al is interested in as well. Clearly, he was just a fan of this band. But yeah, no, the idea of like an entire song all about, it's a love letter to something no one could possibly love. Yeah,
it's a love letter, but even more so than that, right? Like, because like My Bologna, the comedy is that it is a genuine love letter to his love of bologna. Right. I feel like this one, and maybe it's helped out by the amazing instrumentation throughout this entire song, because the instrumentation in this song is fucking phenomenal, right? But it's almost scary. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're in a Severance type world where
exactly
it's like, like it's this spacey idea. So even just the first verse leading in, the first two verses leading in the chorus, where it's like, I found a job in a great big office and I really love this place. I've got my own Scotch tape dispenser. I've got my own private parking space, and I've got a coffee mug with my name right on it in big bold letters so everyone knows it's mine. Don't even touch it because it doesn't belong to you. I'm watching you, so don't get funny. Like, there is like, I have watched those arguments. I've watched people fight over if someone used a coffee mug that they always use. Like, it is crazy, the meticulous things that become like obsessions with people.
All those office related things, and then the following verse of the trying to sneak extra jelly donuts and hoping that nobody notices. I mean, the lyrics to this song are so good. The satire, I love to watch my boss get angry so I can count the veins in his neck. Every day is like a picnic. Every Friday, get a check.
Yeah,
it is a really, really impressive satire of just what it means to be like a working class American, or a white collar working class American, specifically this sort of environment that people have to survive and navigate socially and professionally at the same time.
Yeah, and it's similar to with Dare to Be Stupid. Like, Al is nailing every aspect of Talking Heads. Steve J is absolutely slaying the bass on this song. It's insane.
It's fantastic. It's such a, like Dare to Be Stupid, it's this amazing thing of, we're going to just compare it to that a lot. Although let's like Mr. Popeil, right? The idea of, he has taken the entire Talking Heads, he's taken like a decade of Talking Heads music and managed to cram it into this one ball of influence. It's wild. Like, from a musical perspective, the intro, the guitar lick in the intro of the song is very much like And She Was, their song. The groove of it is very Once in a Lifetime, which of course also, as you mentioned, has the lyrical, "This is not my beautiful stapler" line, which is a direct reference to that. But it just, their influence is all over it, and all the way down to the live clips, where if you haven't, funny enough, this also popped up in the, it's popped up in other videos of him wearing the large suit like David Byrne in Stop Making Sense.
Yes.
That's in UHF, right? Is it UHF that you see a shot of him wearing that?
So here's a fun thing that I've been realizing with Polka Party. We only got these 2 music videos for this album. And as much as I love Christmas at Ground Zero, I would say that they are two fairly forgettable music videos from this
honestly,
album.
Yeah, we can get into it later, but Christmas at Ground Zero, like, it's an official music video, but it is basically just a hodgepodge of stock footage that they put together. It's really well done, but it is, again, we've talked before about, like, especially at this time, it seems like Al per album has one music video budget and one where it's like, here's $50, good luck.
Yeah.
And
so the
that's
reason
what
why
they have
I'm
to do.
mentioning those music videos is because, yes, when we get the UHF music video, then we're getting the Talking Heads visual.
Right.
We're getting the Robert Palmer visual. Like,
Exactly.
a lot of the stuff that's on this album that would have been a great video fodder, it seems got pushed aside until they could do something like UHF, which wasn't a specific style of anybody, so they could reference all of these other artists.
All the references, yeah. It's a shame. I mean, how great a video could someone make to this song?
Trust me, if you search
Yeah.
on YouTube, you'll find some people
There's some
who
fan-made
took the
videos. I
time.
did see there's a few good fan-made videos of this track. Yeah, but it's just, I mean, it's all there. It's a very, I mean, you can see the video in your head when you listen to the song.
You could literally make a music video for this song just using clips from Office Space. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this song captures so much of what Mike Judge was trying to warn us about in Office Space. But I also, we talked about the bass, but on Al's part of things, nailing David's voice perfectly and the flourishes that he's throwing in there with the keyboard and with the weird, like, background noises that are happening. Like, this feels so, you said it right out the gate, this feels so at home on a Talking Heads record.
Oh my God, it would be, if the Talking Heads performed this song and put it on a record, nobody would think. That's what's so interesting about Al in this context. It's the same, again, it's not, as much as it feels at home on an Al record, this is not a comedy song. If you look at it on its own, if you just have this like a separate thing, it's just not that funny. And I don't mean that as an insult at all. It's what is sort of funny and delightful about it is how much he absolutely nails it.
Yeah. No, he crushes it on this. This is one of the shining examples of, like, an Al original. I don't have like I said, there's not a ton to say about this song because it is so good, but I don't know if he ever really tackles the Talking Heads again after this. And it's obvious, I think, from the conversation that we're fans, but let's talk a little bit about the Talking Heads. I'm assuming you are a Talking Heads fan as much as I am.
Yeah. I was referencing Al doing the David Byrne suit from Stop Making Sense. Stop Making Sense, the concert film, is, I still would say, I think has to be the greatest concert film ever made by anybody. It is incredible thing.
What I would argue is the best performance of Psycho Killer. The
Yes.
version that kicks off that movie with just the like cassette tape drum beat repeating while he plays acoustic guitar is insane. It's the things that they were able to do, you know, they fall into that category of literally on Krista Makes, one of their like Patreon episodes was about new wave music and discussing new wave and how this was like a title that was kind of thrust upon anything that was coming out in the 80s that was even remotely electronic. And obviously that means that Talking Heads definitely got roped into that genre. But, you know, similar to what we said with Devo, like Talking Heads was that proto-punk art rock band of like the 70s that took everything that early 70s punk music was and just made it so much more sophisticated and interesting with the way that they presented it after the fact.
Yeah, no, they are just an unbelievably important and special band. Again, another thing I love to say about these bands that Al likes to reference and study this way, like, nobody sounds like the Talking Heads. They haven't before, they haven't since. They are like just a singular band. And I said that about Devo. I said that about the B-52s. And there's a reason why I think Al is drawn to these types of acts, because it's like, I feel the same thing, which is like you hear something like that and a part of you just wants to be like, how are they doing this? How is it possible that they are this incredibly specific sounding while also still fitting into pop culture and the pop world in that time? Yeah, no, I mean, if you have not, it's funny because like I'm obviously like a huge music person. And I know for a lot of people who maybe aren't, the idea of sitting down and watching a concert film feels like not something that you would do. Stop Making Sense as a film. It's directed by Jonathan Demme. It's
fantastic. It's
absolutely incredible. It's visually incredible. It actually progresses like it is just a concert, so there's not a story, but it plays out. I almost don't even want to spoil it. Like there is almost like a visual narrative to the stage show that is just incredible. And then on top of that, it is just like some of the most flawlessly performed music. It is like an incredible, incredible experience. I have shown it to so many people in my life because it's so important to me. A life-changing thing when I saw Stop Making Sense.
Well, and we talked about this with the Dare to Be Stupid episode, that you can tell that Al is a legitimate Devo fan. And I think the thing that I keep seeing time and time and time again is just like, I think that Al's taste in music is very similar to my taste in music in the sense of he likes those artists who are willing to push so hard against what like a mainstream sounding band sounds like. And maybe it was you that mentioned this, or a past guest, but didn't a past guest even mention that like the Food album on like the side jacket has a Talking Heads reference because it says like more songs about television and food or something along those lines? Like,
it's not the Food album. It's the vinyl. Actually, I think it's on this record. I think it is in the Dead Wax. So on vinyl, when the groove is gone in the center, like by the label, there's an area called Dead Wax, and you can put like the catalog number in the matrix. And I think on Polka Party, in the Dead Wax, it says, it's etched into the wax, more songs about TV and food.
Yeah.
Which is a direct reference to the Talking Heads album, More Songs About Buildings and Food.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, that's a deep cut fan reference.
Oh, yeah. No, that's big.
Because that's not even, that is not, if you're like even a casual Talking Heads fan, like More Songs About Buildings and Food is not one of the albums that you're thinking of. Like you're thinking of like Remain in the Light. Yeah. You're thinking of 77. Like they have these albums that had a ton of big hits. And that one, it was really just Take Me to the River was like the only single off that album, especially compared to like Remain in the Light, Fear of Music. Yeah. And even True Stories, not that True Stories had a ton of hits, but it had such a memorable cover to it of,
it's true.
Like, but let me ask you, Here's a quick question. Do you have, as impossible as it might be, a favorite Talking Heads song?
A favorite Talking Heads song?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, no. Like you, I love the live version of Psycho Killer from the top of Stop Making Sense is amazing. If I have a single favorite, I really love Life During Wartime.
I was that was the one I was thinking. I was thinking of that and one other song that I want to bring up to bring it back to Dog Eat Dog, actually. But
Life During Wartime is incredible. Once in a Lifetime, as much as it gets talked about, I think is one of those examples of like a song that has no business being a hit because of how strange it is, but is just so undeniably flawlessly written and put together that it's like you can't help but love it. And then the other one I was going to say is Naive Melody, This Must Be the Place.
Okay.
Which is,
so
also a beautiful, beautiful. That's the one I was talking about. That's like his a love letter to a lamp is how he describes it.
So Life During Wartime is I mean, this ain't no party. This ain't no disco. Like that's just so catchy. But the song that I actually forgot about until I heard it in a TV show recently is Pulled Up. Off
that's
their
a good
debut album. And Pulled Up, as I'm thinking about it, almost feels like a precursor to Dog Eat Dog. You know what I mean? Like it is, it's like, Mommy, Daddy, come look at me now. I'm a big man in a great big town. Like it's this like celebration, again, a celebration of the mundane. Like I've moved out of the house. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially what the song is about. Yeah. And now this is the next evolution of it. Like, look at how great I'm doing climbing this corporate ladder at this job that brings me no real joy.
Yes. And another side note, which we didn't get into on the lyrics that I really love about this song is the chorus of the song is I'm climbing up the corporate ladder Watch out, it's dog eat dog. Nose against the grindstone, but it feels all right. It's dog eat dog. The lyrics, that's the chorus. But the verses make no indication that this person is actually climbing any sort of ladder.
No.
Which I love as a little very subtle thing. Like, it's the idea, again, talking about the satire and the messaging of this song. Like, the idea is always supposed to be for people, like, put your time in, sit at that desk, do a good job, and eventually you'll climb that ladder. Yeah. But for so many people, that's a myth. That's a way to keep you in that chair. I mean, this guy, from the beginning of the song, he says he's climbing the ladder, but by the end of the song, he is bragging about how he's bending paper clips into the shapes of animals. You know, I made a big mistake. Where's my liquid paper? Yeah, no, this person is not climbing any ladder.
No,
that's for sure.
So this is the other element of this song that's worth talking about, is not so much that this show wouldn't exist without this piece of it, but, you know, I am a full-time freelance podcaster. And I didn't expect that to be the case. I was working at a job for 7 years that I enjoyed. And I had, quote unquote, worked my way up the corporate ladder. I went from a dude answering telephones to like being second in command at the QA department. Mm-hmm. And then we got bought out by a different company, and I got immediately tossed right back into the phones. Yeah. And for 2.5 years, there was this promise of, this is just a temporary thing until we can figure out a position for you. Yeah. And that position was never going to come. It was never going to be created. I very quickly realized that. And that's when I was like, I don't have to do this. Like, I can do the podcasting thing. But 100%, there was at least 1.5 years that I was still chasing that bone in that dog-eat-dog world, that I was going to get back to where I was on that ladder, when every person that was dangling that bone was very aware that they were never going to give me another position like that.
Sure. And as is in the song, the idea of, from the corporate perspective, having people in a position where they are arguing about coffee mugs and arguing about jelly donuts, and that is the drama that keeps them going. That's how you fuel those people to stay in that position. It makes them feel like there's more going on than there actually is. It's dark. This is some dark stuff we're talking about here, honestly.
It is. There's this idea of, so I'm not trying to bum anybody out.
Yep, let's do it. We're here.
But there's some of you that are probably sitting at your computer desk at work listening to this episode. The reality is that they've done studies, and they've proven that it is more cost efficient to say make sure a fridge is constantly filled with sodas that are free to the employees, and to once a month buy them pizzas, and that someone would be willing to take as much as a $15 an hour pay cut to what their work is worth, under the guise that they are being gifted these free sodas and this pizza that doesn't cost the actual corporation nearly as much as it would be to actually pay the employees the fair wages that they've worked for. Like, that is how fucked up the corporate world actually is. And I, again, was like, hey, we got video games, we got pizza, we got sodas. Like, sure, let's do this.
Yeah.
It never dawned on me that it's like, man, I'm doing a lot of work for under $20 an hour right now. Like,
yeah,
just never even was a flicker in my brain at it, because I'm like, look at all this free shit. So
yeah,
keep that in mind, listeners.
It's grim. Yeah, keep that in mind, listeners with horrible lives.
I hope your favorite Friday morning podcast is really cheering you up on your drive to work.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right. New music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
All right, let's do some rankings, though.
I mean, all joking aside, if you're listening to this podcast from an office job that makes you miserable, find something. I know this sounds oversimplified, and these are the sort of things that people say that feel like they are pie in the sky, not grounded in reality things. But there are always, the world is full of things you can do.
Yes,
you can
life
always do something else.
Life is too short to be miserable 40 hours out of your week, if not more.
It doesn't always feel that way, and it might feel sometimes like there's no other option. And I'm not saying quit today, but make moves to do something that makes you feel better about yourself. It can be done. Don't be like the character in this song. Although, again, at least on paper, the character of this song seems to be having a great time.
He's loving it. He is
enjoying himself. He is.
And I think, just to stress this, if we're getting serious, we're pulling
Let's
up
get
the chair.
serious.
I'm sitting backwards on this chair with my hat backwards, so all the kids know that I'm relatable.
Wow.
But that doesn't necessarily also mean literally follow what Matt and I have done, where it's like, oh, we're just freelance working for ourselves. Like, side note, that is a lot more work. Like, that is when I told my dad I was quitting my job, the best advice he ever gave me was, he just said, if you're working freelance, it will either be the hardest high-paying job of your life or the easiest low-paying job of your life, and only you can decide that.
There you go.
So, like,
there you go.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm making enough money to pay my mortgage, which is dope. I don't see a lot of my friends and family nearly as much as I
was
going to
say. I mean, in the in the worlds that I'm in, like the upside and the thing that honestly, like on certain days when I think about the office people, like, knowing that you're going to get a check every Friday and knowing what the dollar amount on that check is every Friday is a luxury that I don't have.
Yeah. I've had a year filled with a lot of loss. You know what I would give for a bereavement pay?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
There are benefits, but what we're saying is there are jobs that are out there that are desk jobs that are founded by like younger, more in touch people who maybe haven't leaned so hard into the let's pay people as little as we possibly can and make them feel like army ants too. So we're not saying that you just have to straight up quit your job and make whatever your passion is your full-time career. That's not for everybody. But if your job is treating you like shit, there are jobs out there that will not be treating you like shit.
Don't be treated like shit, guys.
Yes,
we care about you, and we want you to be treated well. You deserve to be treated well. You deserve to feel good about what you do. I feel like I'm on a different podcast all of a sudden.
Yeah, we've changed it up. Let's get it back to.
But this is great. No. I'm into it. This is worthwhile stuff we're doing here. This is good.
But it's because of this, because of the emotions that this song has brought out in us. This is why Dog Eat Dog is going to be in my top 5 right now for original songs. At number 4, in between This Is the Life and One More Minute.
That's a great position for this song. I'm gonna put it. I'm going to go even a little bit higher than you. And I'm going to put this at number 3.
Ooh.
In between Nature Trail to Hell and I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I really love this song. And I think if there's any like final takeaway on this is the sort of thing that is interesting for me to think about as an Al fan, is think about how much this is a Talking Heads song. For people who are listening, if you are familiar with Talking Heads in general. If you're not, another act that I cannot recommend enough you take a listen to. But it's so interesting to me that as much as this is a Talking Heads song, nobody would ever accuse the Talking Heads of being a novelty band or a band that makes comedy music. And yet, Al, a person who makes novelty comedy music by almost every measure, it's just so interesting that when it's in his hands, it has that slant to it in a way that you just would never think of with if the Talking Heads had done it.
Yeah. No,
it's so subjective. It's so and it just makes me feel even more about like Al, I heard forever ago make the point that like people say that he makes novelty music and he's like, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, it also comes down to an element for me where it's just like Al is known as a comedy musician.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of reasons to say that about Al. But when you look at like our rankings of his originals right now, you know what I mean? Like what do what do songs like Dare to Be Stupid, Nature Trail to Hell, This Is the Life, Dog Eat Dog, and even I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead have in common? But like, they're not that funny. You know what I mean?
They're not
like,
that funny. Yeah,
they're more that he is tapped in to the very essence of what makes the genre of music that he is coming after in those. Yeah. So he taps into it so strongly that you could play that for someone and not tell them that it's Weird Al, and they would just think it is a regular Broadway song or a regular horror movie theme or a regular Talking Head or Devo song.
Totally.
Like that is his greatest gift of a songwriter, is not his comedic slant, but it's his ability to perfectly parrot not just an artist or a genre, but the very essence and the ethos that is behind that artist and that genre when the time comes.
Yeah. No, it's just, I don't know, for as much as we talk, and we're going to continue talking about like how funny these songs are and how much they make us laugh, the idea, like the parody is not entirely about that. And I'm saying this almost as a reminder to myself in the same way as I am to you, the listener, that you can do a parody of an artist like he does here. And the thing that makes it so delightful is not that it's laugh out loud jokes, but that it is just this incredible experience of hearing something repurposed and reimagined and just twisted in this very specific way. It's just another example of how Al does not get, as much as I feel like we are at a time right now in the, as this episode comes out, where Al could not be more beloved in general. And boy, I hope nothing happens to Al between now and the release of this episode to change that. But he is at like peak. Everybody loves this man. And it's not only because he just makes funny jokes.
No, I think that's exactly
it's so much more than that. And he still doesn't get enough credit. That was the real point I was trying to make. Despite how beloved he is, I still feel like he is underrated for his ability to do stuff like what he does in Dog Eat Dog.
Yes, 100%. And this is not the end of us having these statements. Like, I can think of at least 5 more style parodies just in the next 3 or 4 albums that we have around the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm like, this is a prime example of him not tapping into what's the funniest thing to do with that song, but what is the closest to what that artist's music would be if he was to write a song for them. And that's why, to this day, if there's one thing that I can wish into the universe, is like, I still want an album where we get to hear Talking Heads actually play Dog Eat Dog and like Devo actually play Dare to Be Stupid. Like, I feel like this could happen, and I would love for it to happen, where you just get those artists to do what their version, even if they never, even better, just give them the lyrics and tell them not to listen to Al's version, and just based on the lyrics that he wrote, what would their version of that song sound like?
That's a fun idea.
Right.
I mean, I don't, the Talking Heads have not played together in many years, and by every measure, I can't imagine that they will, unfortunately. But but boy,
one time only for Al,
treat.
Maybe.
One time only for Al, maybe David Byrne puts some stuff aside. I know those guys just have not. It's been a long time.
Yeah. But you know what? I also respect a band who breaks up and stays broken.
I have such respect for. They've just you know what David Byrne said about our Talking Heads reunion. I heard an interview with him where he was asked about it. And he likened it to the idea of like, he said it's like your high school ex-girlfriend. He's like, and you look back and you have such fond memories. It's like, oh man, like remember those times? That was really great. We had such a good time together. He's like, and now imagine being told like, great, do you and her want to get back together and like just travel around the world for a year? You'd be like, oh, I don't know about that. That seems like a lot. Maybe I'll just hang on to those positive memories. And that's good for me.
Because the flip side, and this isn't a diss to bands that reunite. Bands reunite all the time, and that's great.
Oh, it's totally fine, yeah.
But I think of the bands like, there's that infamous Van Halen quote when Van Halen got back together, and they were like, I thought you guys hated each other, and their answer was, we loved money more than we hated each other. And it's like, I don't want to see that. Like if you're with Blink-182, as much as that band has, as much as Tom has left and then come back to that band, very rarely do I ever feel like Tom has come back to that band because it's a financial decision. More often than not, it's been like, sadly, it's been Travis almost dies, Mark almost dies, and in that moment of grief, he has the David Bryan situation, I guess, basically of like remembering all of those great times and deciding that he does want to go on a year-long trip with his friends one last time. So
yeah, no, I don't fault him for it. I think, again, bands can unite and reunite, but I also think it's palpable. I think I might have mentioned this, but when we talked about the Police before, but I saw the Police when they did their reunion tour, and from where I was sitting, it felt very palpable to me that they were not thrilled to be back together. And that it was a way to make money. And from an audience perspective, it's a bummer. Like, for me, I'm just like, just stay broken up. It's okay. I don't want to see you singing Roxanne against your will.
I won't say any names because you toured with this band, and thus you were friends with this band. But if you remember on the episode that we did of Teenage Dirtbag,
yes,
our guest talked about seeing Wheatus live for the first time as the opener for a bigger band from the 90s.
Yes.
And his comparison was that just from where he was seated, he could tell that one band was a lead singer with a bunch of hired guns to back him up while he played the hits.
Yep.
And another band was a legitimate group of friends that were having fun on stage together.
There you go.
It is true. You can tell and feel when something is genuine and when something is kind of a payday.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, by all means, get paid. Go out and get paid. Like, it's totally fine. But I do think that, it's, you can feel it. I'm glad. I would rather, like you said, like, I wouldn't want to go see a Talking Head show where I look up there and David Byrne is like thinking to himself, what?
How did I get here?
How did I get here?
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.